Let's quickly take the visit of Dr. Okonjo-Iweala to the Central Bank of Nigeria headquarters here in Abuja, as Godwin Emefiele met with her and they discussed.
Nigeria is a country that needs help, and I dare say help from WTO, and we would work with you. We do know, one way or the other, people may have seen or said a few things about the way we've conducted our trade, but I think it's important for me to say that some of those things have been done to also help. I know people don't like to use the word protect our own industries, but we're trying to say that we need to give a chance to our own local industries to grow. We need to give a chance for our local industries to create jobs and employment. The unemployment rate in Nigeria, and I dare say, is very high. Our youthful population of people of the age of about 18 to about 40 is almost close to about 60% of our population. You can use that to your advantage. You could also use that to your detriment. The fact that we need to create jobs for this set of people, we need to create an enabling environment for this set of people to live a gainful life, means that we have a responsibility to do so. And in doing so, we would need the support of institutions like yourself to work with us. We may have faltered in a few areas. I'm not going to deny that. We will be willing to engage with you in areas where we have concerns. And if those concerns are addressed, I want to assure you, Madam DG, that we will work with you. Nigeria is open to business to any part of the world, and we would like to work with you. You talked about vaccines, for instance. COVID-19 opened a lot of people's eyes as to what is happening, how those who may have left their markets, right, dependent on others, how they have suffered. We know that with COVID, those who were supposed to be exporting even food and drugs to other needy areas, they held back their food, they held back their drugs. And I must say that Nigeria, being a very big market, being a big country, Nigeria, with the way God has endowed it with human and material resources, I think Nigeria should be able to do something to shield its own people and ensure that we provide for our people what they need, so that we are not so heavily dependent on others. So you will see in the course of this, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and supported also by supporting the fiscal, we've done a couple of things that you may have read: providing stimulus, providing intervention, restructuring loans, reducing interest rates on loans to borrowers who have been adversely impacted. Through the co-chairmanship of myself and Aliko Dangote, we even formed the coalition against COVID for the private sector. And close to almost about 40 billion naira was raised. And in fact, this is the highest I've ever seen a group of private sector institutions in any part of the world raise to support the efforts of government to combat the pandemic and the rest of them. We built isolation centers all over the country, including Abuja. We provided stimulus by way of palliatives that were also distributed to our needy people in the country. Not that there would always be some areas of stumbles, but at least we did this to support the government. The Central Bank of Nigeria also came up and said, listen, because of this health pandemic, that we'll provide intervention funds through our banks to support people who want to expand their manufacturing plants. Nigeria, we used to see the likes of GSK, Bicham, all of them. Nigerian German Chemicals are very prominent pharmaceutical companies in Nigeria. But for one reason or the other, these factories closed because of certain inefficiencies in our system. We are determined to make sure that those inefficiencies are resolved. We are trying as much as possible, working in government, to ensure that the needed infrastructure that they are put in place. We are working through our ease of doing business committee to ensure that we make life easy for people who want to do business in Nigeria. And you, being the DG of WTO, we would need your help. Nigeria needs to be given a chance to reset and diversify its economy. You are our sister, you are our mother, we need your support. We would engage with you, whether virtually or physically. You want us to come in any part of the world, we will hold your dress, I hold you and come with you to ensure that you help us to carry our story to the world so they understand that Nigeria needs help and that Nigeria is ready to work, but that we need help and we'll work with you. In the area of even vaccines, only last week, we even had to commission, we set up a body of experts to look at researches that are being conducted by some Nigerians and all that. And I'm happy, you are a medical doctor. I mean, ivermectin is something that people have looked at, where there may be, if you read, but we're still conducting research, and we're funding part of that research on ivermectin. We are willing, and so we are talking to a few manufacturing companies here who are willing to produce vaccines, but they will need collaboration from agencies or multilateral agencies abroad, and we would like to work with you. We are ready to provide the financing for this. We have Naira, we don't have dollar. So if you need Naira, yes, and then you want to import the equipment, we'll give you the foreign to import the equipment, whatever you need to do to conduct your research, so that Nigeria, being the biggest country in Africa, the biggest economy in Africa, I think Nigeria needs to stand up at this time and be counted. That is why we need your support.
And I'm particularly happy and proud that we were able to get the first set of doses of vaccines to the country, with another 12 million doses to follow. And I remember you're calling me very concerned about and asking how the private sector could help. And this is my role with the COVAX and as envoy of the WHO, working on trying to get these vaccines here. You called, you were concerned, you said what could the private sector do, and we talked about their help in logistics. Because once the vaccines arrive, distributing them properly is also a very difficult thing. And I really want to congratulate you on having assisted to make that happen. This is a very good thing. I'm working with the private sector to raise the substantial amount you did to make sure that our people have access. So thank you for doing that, and congratulations on that. Let me push further on the issue of the pandemic and the impact it has had on our economy and our health system. It has now opened our eyes, as you said, to see that we need to start doing something about the pharmaceutical industry in Nigeria. Africa itself imports over 90% of the pharmaceuticals it uses. This is according to the Economic Commission on Africa. And with a population, with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, a market of 1.3 billion people, of which Nigeria is the largest with over 200 million, I think there is room. We should ask ourselves the questions you raised, Governor. Why is it that the pharmaceutical companies that opened here struggled and closed? What are we doing to make sure, as you said, this doesn't happen? What are we doing to see that our own domestic manufacturers of pharmaceuticals have the appropriate environment they need? We've now seen what happens. If you have this pandemic and you don't have some ability to provide, you have to wait. Sometimes in a queue where there's supply scarcity. And we've been pushing and pushing through COVAX, but you see everybody is demanding these vaccines. So I think, and medicines, I think we must learn the lessons now, because there'll be another pandemic in the future. What are we going to do now to establish the capacity, reinvite investment into that sector? And yesterday with Mr. President, I mentioned that we should start thinking of establishing capacity to manufacture vaccines now. It takes time. It takes time. It takes years. This is a business I know something about, to be able to have a certified manufacturing plant. So we should start now to see how, with a public-private partnership, we could begin to attract investment. And perhaps later we'll talk a little bit more about it, because at least one vaccine manufacturer approached me and said he had tried to set up something here, but the atmosphere was not very welcoming. So, Governor, I just want to raise that we need to ask ourselves about our environment for investment, both for our domestic private sector as well as the foreign private sector, so we can support our own pharmaceuticals. And as I say this is one of those areas where I see tremendous opportunity. You know, I'm always looking at the cup half full rather than half empty. Yeah, I see an opportunity for us to do much better, create more jobs. We have the talent in terms of people we need in this country. So let's create the right environment for manufacturing in the pharmaceutical industry. So that's one set of areas where I think we can really do something. I want to push a bit further on trade logistics. You spoke about the fact that I mentioned yesterday that Nigeria ranks 103 out of 167 in the trade logistics index. So it isn't very good. But again, this is an opportunity for us to improve. If our logistics are not sound, we don't have the kind of transport system, the kind of energy system we need, we're not going to be able to move. So that's an area in which we can try to improve. And the private sector is very much needed. You know, logistics in many countries also carried out by the private sector. The government partnering with the private sector can do quite a bit. And I'll have an opportunity to talk to them today. So we need to improve in that area if we want to diversify our sources of revenue. Because our economy is already diverse. But like I said, and I will never tire of saying it, how do we add more value to our products in this country? Yesterday, I gave the example of shea butter and sesame seed, which is very much needed and sought after for cosmetics. We are one of the largest producers, but for a long time, we could not sell in markets abroad because the quality was not up to standard. We had issues with sanitary and phytosanitary barriers that we couldn't meet. But the WTO with the International Trade Center was able to come in and working with a cooperative, do a lot of work to improve quality, get NAFDAC certification, and thereafter they're selling in so many markets, as I'll elaborate further in a speech today, to Egypt, Jordan, Dubai, you know, and now they've penetrated the UK and US as well, because we were able to help that cooperative in Oyo State upgrade the quality. That's one example where the WTO can actually deliver specific support and touch the lives of ordinary men and women in this country. And that's what we are aiming to try to do. But permit me or forgive me for spending a little bit of time on this issue. The reason is I feel that we need to begin to talk about the transition of this economy from an oil and fossil fuel-based economy to one that is dependent on other sources of revenue and job creation. We have maybe 2 or 3 decades to make this transition. And the reason is that the world is moving extremely fast away from the use of fossil fuels. Some countries have said that by 2025, they will no longer have cars based on petroleum in their country. It will all be electric. China is providing incentives to its young people to make sure they buy electric cars. In Europe, they are moving very fast to lower carbon emissions. So we, being a fossil fuel-based economy, need to think about what this means and how do we transition to other areas. This is the big task in front of Nigeria, and I want to see us holding more conversations about this and tapping those sources, services, a very important source. We saw that Wizkid and Burma Boy won prizes, and I want to congratulate them because they're exporting Nigeria's music and talents abroad, and people are buying this. We have music, we have art, we have movies. Everywhere I go abroad, people, the diaspora of Africans keeps talking about how Nigerian movies, they love them. So we should not neglect the creative industries because they create a lot of jobs for our young university graduates. And we must see how we can support these areas. I would later on ask Ambassador Chad Blackman to say a few words, because he's the chair of the Trade and Environment Committee at the WTO, to talk a little bit about what this means. So let's focus. I know, Governor, you've been working on trying to work with the Ministry of Finance and others to see how we can create jobs in other sectors of the economy. And I think we need to look at this. Export finance. I raised it with the Minister of Finance yesterday, trade finance, and perhaps if you can say a few words about where we stand with this. The WTO has been partnering with the IFC to try to provide more access to trade finance by guaranteeing letters of credit. We even have a project where the fees have been lowered for women-owned enterprises. And this is an area where the WTO, we have a great deal of interest in trying to correct the inequalities, those excluded from globalization and from the benefits of trade. Trade has lifted millions and billions out of poverty. But, you know, some people have also been left behind, even in rich countries. How does the WTO work to try and lift people up? That's why we want to work with women entrepreneurs, with micro, medium, and small enterprises to try to bring this kind of expertise that I talked about that can improve their living standards. That's one area the WTO is working very hard. Another is e-commerce. This is now, the digital economy is here to stay, and actually our young people are doing well there. I've been giving the example of Flutterwave that was recently invested in a fintech payment platform that has been invested in and is valued at hundreds of millions of dollars now. But it's not the only one. We have other young people who are doing things in technology. And this is the kind of thing we need to support our young people to make use of the digital economy. We need to support our women to be able to trade. You know, some Rwandan women sold their coffee to people in China directly on the internet, and they made $4 more per ton than they would have selling through intermediaries. So we need to start thinking of how we shift a lot to the digital economy. The WTO is undergoing some negotiations now on e-commerce, plurilateral, and Nigeria is very active in being one of the supporters of that. Let me then quickly move to a little bit of a touchy area. You talked about protecting our industries, and I just want to say that WTO has what we call trade remedies, which can help us without banning things. We can be able to protect our industries against dumping and cheap exports and, cheap imports and so on, if we use those remedies. I understand Nigeria is trying to establish a trade remedies authority, and I want to strongly support that. So we can use those remedies as a tool to help our industries to grow. Because some of the issues I raised yesterday, and Governor, I have to ask you to tell you not to be upset, but as DG WTO, you know, I have to raise this about the issue of the BOP. We have a complaint against us by the EU about the use of the violation of the balance of payments agreement with respect to trying to protect the dairy industry. And they feel that this is not the right instrument. So as DG WTO, I have to make this known. But this is an issue which you have said you would like to engage on in a little more detail, so we can discuss that later and how to go about it. So in short, I want to say that I think that we have what it takes in this country, particularly in our young people, to do the necessary, which is to look forward as to how we are going to create jobs and move this economy in the direction that will support our youth in the future. There are opportunities that can be had to improve trade in services, trade in goods, so that our economy can climb out of this pandemic recession that we're in faster than would have been the case. I know it's tough now, but we can do it.